In our quiet neighborhood, the arrival of HOA Karen brought an unexpected twist. Known for her strict enforcement of community rules, she patrolled the area like a hawk. While I respected her efforts to maintain order, her habit of raiding my firewood stash was crossing the line. It all started innocently enough. I would stack my firewood neatly behind my shed, ready for the chilly nights ahead. But soon I noticed pieces disappearing. At first it was just a few logs here and there, but as the weeks passed, my stock dwindled alarmingly. One day I caught Karen red-handed, dragging a hefty bundle down her driveway with a triumphant grin. Frustrated and fed up, I decided it was time for a clever plan. I had an idea that was both mischievous and remarkably creative. I would replace my firewood with hollow logs filled with gunpowder. After gathering the supplies, I carefully crafted the logs, ensuring they looked authentic from the outside. The hollow spaces were filled with gunpowder, making each one look like a regular piece of firewood. Then I stacked them once again in my usual spot, a smug smile on my face as I awaited the inevitable. When Karen returned to steal my firewood, she seemed none the wiser. I watched from my window as she gleefully loaded her vehicle with my cleverly disguised logs. As she drove away, I couldn't help but chuckle to myself, imagining her shock when she finally discovered the truth. Later that night, as the sun set, and the stars twinkled above, I heard a distant but distinct sound like a low rumble, followed by a muffled explosion. I knew exactly what had happened. Karen had unintentionally ignited her new firewood, and the neighborhood lit up with a surprisingly loud spectacle. Word spread quickly, and while many in the community were concerned, I couldn't help but find humor in the situation. HOA Karen's firewood stealing days were over, and it served as a reminder that sometimes cleverness can outsmart even the most persistent of neighbors. I live in a small rural neighborhood where everyone minds their own business. Except for one person, Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. She's the kind of woman who'll fine you for leaving your trash can out 5 minutes too long, but has no problem parking her SUV on your grass. Last winter was brutally cold. I chopped and stacked about 2 cords of firewood behind my shed. Every log, neatly arranged, my pride and winter lifeline. But after a few days, I noticed something strange. The pile was shrinking. At first, I thought maybe I'd miscounted. Then I checked my security camera, and there she was. Karen, sneaking into my yard at midnight, loading logs into her car. The next morning, she had the nerve to wave at me cheerfully. "Lovely weather. Hope you're keeping warm," she said. I confronted her. "Karen, you've been taking my firewood. That's theft." She smiled. "Oh, don't be silly. The HOA owns the shared resources in this area. You can't own wood from community trees." Community trees? The woman had lost her mind. I told her to stay off my property, but she didn't listen. Over the next few days, more wood vanished. So I decided to give her a special delivery. I hollowed out a few logs, filled them with just enough gunpowder and sand to make a loud pop when burned. Nothing deadly, just a good scare. I sealed them back up, stacked them neatly on top of the pile, and waited. That night, my camera caught her again, sneaking up, stealing those same logs with a flashlight. The next evening, I heard it. Boom! A muffled explosion echoed from Karen's house across the street. Then came the screaming. Her fire pit had gone off like a cannon, sending ashes and embers into the air. No one was hurt, but her patio furniture was scorched, and her perfect white fence had black burn marks all over it. The next morning, she stormed over. "You tried to kill me!" she yelled. I calmly showed her the footage, her stealing from me again. The police got involved, but when they saw the video, they just shook their heads. "Ma'am," the officer said, "you were trespassing and stealing property. You're lucky that's all that happened." Karen had to pay for my missing wood, plus a fine for trespassing. The HOA tried to defend her, but after the incident, most of the neighbors turned against her. A week later, She sold her house and moved away, claiming unsafe community conditions. My name is Mark, and I live in the pristine, annoyingly regulated community of Oakwood Lane. Every winter, I meticulously chop and stack a 2-cord pile of seasoned hickory and oak. It's a labor of love, and the only thing that makes the Homeowners Association, HOA, rules bearable is the promise of a warm, crackling fire. But for the past 2 years, my stack had been mysteriously shrinking. Not drastically, but steadily. Enough to drive a person mad with suspicion. Then, last week, I caught her. I was looking out the kitchen window at 5 a.m., enjoying my coffee, when a car slowed down by my curb. It was a silver SUV, and out stepped Brenda, a woman known throughout the neighborhood as the HOA's most aggressive busybody, a true Karen in every sense. She was wearing a puffy vest and a look of absolute entitlement. She marched directly to my firewood stack, grabbed 3 hefty oak logs, tucked them under her arm, and scurried back to her car like a squirrel hoarding nuts. The audacity was breathtaking. I immediately reported it to the HOA. The irony was not lost on me. They replied with a generic email about neighborly disputes. I tried speaking to Brenda, who flatly denied it, claiming, "I would never touch your dirty wood, Mark. It's unsightly, actually." That was the last straw. Brenda wasn't just stealing fuel. She was stealing my time, my effort, and my peace of mind. I decided a talking to or a stern email wouldn't work. She needed a lesson that was memorable, immediate, and entirely self-inflicted. Chapter 2. The Fabrication. I have a friend, an old special effects guy named Stan, who lives for a good practical joke. I drove out to his workshop that afternoon with a grim look of determination. "Stan," I said, presenting him with a handful of my average-sized logs. "I need your expertise in structural alteration." The plan was simple, devious, and perfectly tailored to Brenda's criminal habits. Stan took 3 identical-looking pieces of split oak. Using a long drill bit and careful hands, he hollowed out the center of each one, leaving about an inch of solid wood around the circumference to maintain the appearance of a normal log. He then placed a small but potent charge in the center of the hollow. "It's not technically gunpowder, Mark," Stan explained, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "It's a mix of flash powder and black powder I use for low-grade smoke bombs in films. It'll create a spectacular pop and flash, maybe some smoke, but zero structural damage. A good scare, no harm." He sealed the holes perfectly with wood putty and dust, making them indistinguishable from the real logs. He even labeled them on the inside just in case. "Do not burn. Prop." "Perfect," I said, paying him a hefty sum. "Let the games begin." Chapter 3. The bait that evening, I rearranged my firewood stack. I strategically placed the 3 rigged logs right on the top edge, exactly where Brenda, in her quick midnight raids, would grab them without looking. I even left a clear, open path for her SUV tracks. The trap was set. I went to bed early, setting my alarm for 3 a.m., knowing that a seasoned thief like Brenda would prefer the cover of deep night. The waiting was agonizing, but finally, my alarm went off. I crept to the kitchen window and peered out. Sure enough, parked under the pale glow of the street lamp, was the silver SUV. Brenda, in her signature puffy vest, crept stealthily toward the pile. She was efficient. She quickly grabbed the 3 closest logs, the fake ones, and made a hasty retreat. I grinned, knowing that those logs were not going into my fire, but into hers. Chapter 4. The Chimney Surprise. I waited an hour, just enough time for Brenda to return home, settle down, and get her fire roaring. I didn't want a dud. I wanted a show. I got more than a show. I was finally dozing off when a muffled yet distinct boom echoed across the normally silent neighborhood. It wasn't a car crash. It wasn't thunder. It was the sound of a well-stoked fireplace suddenly receiving 3 very special logs. I heard a frantic, high-pitched scream, followed by the distant wail of a smoke detector. A few minutes later, the air was heavy with the scent of smoke, and the faint sound of panicked shouts drifted from the direction of Brenda's meticulously maintained colonial house, 2 streets over. The lesson was delivered. Chapter 5. The aftermath. The next morning, the HOA email chain was buzzing. Brenda was claiming there was a pyrotechnic terrorist attack on her house. I, Mark, sent a very simple, innocent reply. That sounds terrible, Brenda. Did you perhaps use unseasoned wood? Sometimes green wood can cause a dangerous buildup of creosote and backdrafting. Maybe stick to the store-bought kiln-dried logs next time. They are safer. Later that day, I received a hand-delivered notice from Brenda. It wasn't an apology, but a stern warning about hazardous yard decor and a demand that I relocate my firewood stack, but never again was a log stolen. The lesson had stuck. My pile of hickory and oak remained untouched for the rest of the winter. And whenever I lit my own safe, crackling fire, I would raise my mug of cocoa and salute the silence of the night, thankful for the 3 hollow logs that finally brought peace to Oakwood Lane. I've lived in the same quiet neighborhood for nearly 10 years. It used to be peaceful, until she moved in. Her name was Karen Whitmore, the newly elected president of our local HOA, and from the day she arrived, she made it her mission to make everyone miserable. At first, it was harmless. Petty notes about mailbox he.